welcome to the next episode. Today we're joined by the amazing Neil Twa. He and his clients have sold over 500 million in physical products through Amazon. Some of the topics we touch upon today were the differences between selling on Shopify and Amazon. Should Shopify sellers even be looking at Amazon, and if yes, at what point? And how to succeed on Amazon if you're adding it as a secondary revenue channel or fully transitioning over to Amazon from Shopify. So let's get right into the episode. Today we're joined by Neil Twa. He and his team have generated over 100 million in sales through Amazon with physical product sales. So glad to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, guys, for having me here. I'm honored, and I appreciate you taking me on the call. And we can chat a little bit about Amazon and DTC and on business and all kinds of fun stuff.
Amazing. Perfect. With our podcast, we always like to take a step back at the start. So, Neil, what's your personal story before we dive into all the fun Amazon and e-commerce stuff? So, how did you get to this point?
Sure, man. Let me give you the short, condensed version and leave out the stuff only my mom might find interesting. So the short version is, I grew up in a working class home. My dad, he went to the Navy, and after he got out of Navy and trade school and stuff, he became a mechanic, and we did okay, and we didn't need anything, but just stuff we wanted, I had to go work to get. So by the time I was 11, 12, 13, I was out mowing lawns to make some cash. So I was making extra money for things I needed to do through that activity, and that kind of led me into hey, there's, opportunity in everything. And so I went to college because I was going to go to the Air Force. I was going to be a fighter pilot. That's what I wanted to do. That was my dream. I had gone through school and said, hey, I'm going to be a fighter pilot. Well, turns out I don't fit the criteria for a fighter pilot. I would not fit in an F-16 cockpit. So they're like, no, sorry, you can't fly the jet. And I'm like, well, then I don't want to be here. So my backup plan was to go to college. So I had a music scholarship, and I played classical and jazz trumpet, and so I was able to go and join the band and the jazz band and the symphony, and went to school for 3 years. It was not cool back then to live in a van down by the river, which today I guess that's kind of the cool thing to do. If you're live in a van down by the river, it's really cool. Back then it was kind of faux pas, hey, that's the worst thing that could happen to you. So when I realized that was going to happen to me as a musician, I said I better get involved in business or e-commerce or something. So I got involved in the idea of e-commerce, but it wasn't. My age, I'm not terribly old at 46, but so much has changed with the internet that was coming online during my education time. And it's well, I want to know about that, but no one else did. It was we were basically barely trying to get up the green screens of email sending when I was in college. So it's where do you go? I could have stayed in academia where the money sort of was flowing. Or I could have gone to the corporate world, and I decided to go to the corporate world because that's where the money was flowing. And so I did that. I jumped out and taught myself programming, and then got into a really unique position. Unfortunately, I was turned down for an EOE opportunity. I have a short name, Neil Twa. A lot of people think it's Asian, and they listen to my podcasts, and this is just a profiling thing, whatever you want to call it. But they realize that I'm not. I'm a 6'4", blonde-haired, bluish guy with Viking descent. So I show up to this job interview for the final thing, and the lady's like, "Sorry, we can't fill this position for you." I'm like, "Wow, crap! Now what?" Which actually led me to the right job. It was good that didn't happen, because I got an opportunity to join Sprint PCS right as the first mobile phone was launching. So the big brick mobile phone, I was part of the team that helped launch that. I got to get into a position that helped support the knowledge and management and infrastructure of the agents and the system and processes that were requiring answers for telephone calls and support calls and stuff. I watched that company while I was there for 5 years grow to 80,000 employees and 25,000 reps. So it just exploded through the mobile explosion of the mobile side, which was very fun to be a part of because things were just going so fast. And because of the job we did and because of how well I did there, I got an opportunity with a partner at IBM to join. So they picked me up, flew me out to Armonk, and said, here's your job, come to IBM. And so I spent almost 5 years inside of IBM. Still no college degree, no master's, no nothing. It really just proved the concept once and for all to my mind that it's who you know that gets you there, and it's what you know that keeps you there. And because of that, I had the opportunity to spend a long time at IBM. From there, it was kind of what's next? So my entrepreneurial ADHD brain was still running things in the background. I had a game server company. I was playing online multiplayer gaming before people thought it was cool. We didn't have it into the game. You couldn't do audio codecs and stuff with multiplayer through the game. So we had game servers that were running the audio codecs so that people all over the world could run their multiplayer clans. And we had about 20,000 people running on those servers. So I'd always had an entrepreneurial background. I knew eventually I would leave the corporate world. It was just my track to get out to where the internet and the money was being spent. And in 2007, I broke loose. So for the last 15 years, I've been on my own. I've had multiple companies. E-commerce was in lead generation and mobile traffic, and cost per install, and affiliate marketing was a big component of what cut my teeth in the internet world. Then I realized, hey, I should be also making the products and the brands. I had a lot of companies I worked with lead generation. We got some Series A funding for them, and their traffic and leads helped them grow enormously. And I realized, hey, I should just finish the last mile here by creating a product and a brand of my own, which led me to discovering the Amazon channel in 2011, in which I realized that this was going to be huge. It just was this big infrastructure. A few years prior to that, I think around 2009 or 10-ish, I think, if memory serves me correctly, Amazon had bought a company called FBA, and they turned it into Fulfilled by Amazon, which became that infrastructure we all know as we click mobile apps and Amazon delivers stuff to our home in an hour or a couple days. It's actually a company owned by Amazon. And so when I saw that occurring and I realized what they were going to do, I was like, I've got to be a part of this. I also looked at Amazon and said, hey, that's just another traffic source. As I'm building my products and brands, let me test it out. So long story short, I got into Amazon, 10 years now, involved in that. We've done a lot of sales. I know you said 100 million, but in actuality, we've done $500 million in sales between ourselves and our clients. It sounds really weird to say it, so I don't like to, it's just, it is what it is. But the end of the result is there's a lot of business to be done. We have DTC channels for our brands as well once they mature. We're not just locked into Amazon. We do direct to consumer channels once the brands mature. We just take a different route than some people. Some people go to, the drop shipping, branding, Facebook advertising, marketing funnel world of Shopify, and then maybe end up on Amazon to pick up that found traffic. We just chose to say, well, let's go to Amazon, and we know how to get traffic and market share there. And then once that brand proves in markets, of Amazon's niches and stuff, we can take that product, data, material, etc., and move it into a direct-to-consumer channel. We can move it out to QVC. We can move it out to infomercials. We can move it out to the great wide world. So we just went a different direction than some people do. And it's proven really well for us.
Perfect. An amazing story, I have to say. You've definitely been in the game a long time, so it's great to hear all the experience. And I also think this is a great funnel into the first topic of the podcast. You mentioned the two sides or the multiple sides of the e-commerce world. There is Amazon, and there's usually also the other Shopify side. For this podcast, there's going to be a lot of Shopify guys, so maybe you could give a brief overview, what are the main difference between both of those worlds, Amazon versus Shopify?
Yeah, so this will be my experience. Some of you may have differentiations in your experience or what you're doing currently or whatever, or maybe what you want to do. But in my experience, you've got to have different unique skill sets. They are, as we have a saying in the country, you can't ride two horses with one ass. These are two different horses to ride. So when you ride one, you probably need to be pretty proficient at the first horse before you try to switch saddles and get on another one. These are very different channels to manage. Amazon is its own beast. Let's make the cons list and the pros list, and then I'll switch over to my understanding is from what I've had experience on building up to 100,000 a month on Shopify channels, what my pros and cons are there too. So, cons first, because everybody's they always want to pontificate on the great things and they want to talk about revenues, and I could give a shit about revenues. I care more about profit. So with Amazon, we're profit focused first. On the products that will make great net profit. That is the profit we actually take home on every unit sold. Okay, as long as we can take home a minimum amount of profit that we feel is comfortable for us, which is a minimum of $12 in profit per unit. We typically will see $20 to $30 to $40 or $50 in profit per unit, but minimum we want to see 12, so we have market penetration. Then we look into, what's the opportunity, the market scale, and the niche for the competition that is currently in Amazon at that place, and how can we, spend the next 60, 90, 120 days and out to 12 months dominating that niche, and then creating scalability within that niche, which leads us to an exit, okay? If we're in scalability and we see market potential beyond just Amazon, we'll move that brand once it gets past 7 figures into DTC or direct to consumer. Amazon is not your partner. I hear a lot of people say, well, partner with Amazon. It's no, you're not partnering with Amazon. You're using a tool, okay? It's a tool like any other tool. You can choose 10 different hammers to go build a house. It's just a tool. At the end of the day, you could pick one of those hammers and hit the nail on the head and do a great job, or you could use the same hammer and crush your thumb. one way or another, it's not the hammer's fault, but you still have to learn how to use the hammer correctly. It can be your friend, or it can be one of the world's deadliest tools when it comes to, how many people die from hammers and baseball bats every year. But the cons of Amazon are that, of course, you have to do the right product profitability. You have to know your numbers really correctly. You do need to treat it like a business, not a side hustle or a hobby business. It will eat you up if you do that wrong. The competition can be fierce if you're not properly staging your business, registrations, trademarks, and other things. Your brand defensibility becomes easier to pick out because you're in a full market share experience. You're in a full forward-looking marketplace. It's much easier for people to see who you are, see what you're doing, and then create opportunities to either compete with you ethically and morally, or to jack with you unethically, or play with the system, which is a little bit different than on the Shopify store. Now, the pros are, that's a lot of cons, and there are a lot of cons, and I could list a lot of them. Especially if you're doing the retail, arbitrage, wholesale, drop shipping models, which, by the way, are completely not compliant with Amazon's terms of service, and it's a complete cat and mouse game with what they're doing, and usually those are the ones that get shut down and you hear about. If you're in compliance, if you're private label, if you have an LLC, if you're brand registered and you have brand trademark, Amazon pretty much doesn't mess with you. They like you. They want you to sell properly in their system. And in one instance in 10 years, we've lost one seller account, which was actually tied to an account with a client who did something nefarious and got one of our accounts shut down, which was an accident. Private label branding correctly can list and exist for a long time. I got products that are over 5 years old on Amazon that just perform every day, week, and month. So on the opposite side of the house, from my experience, Shopify is great. It's an interesting infrastructure. It's allowed the drop shipping community to take advantage of it, which has been one of their great things, although I don't think Shopify really had that in mind when they started the company as an e-commerce platform, but it sort of turned into it. Thanks, marketers. Marketers either do great things or they create crappy things and force policies and changes with the businesses both on Amazon and Shopify and others, including Facebook, that then make it more restrictive for you to get involved. It's not quite as easy later on. It makes it harder to start up for people who are getting brand new in the marketplace if you haven't had the experience or time. But there's no traffic with Shopify. That's the one major con I see myself and that I like about Amazon is there's no traffic. I mean, you can put up the site, you can have great products, but obviously you need eyeballs on your offer. You got to get traffic, qualified traffic, and converting traffic, which means you need to have an audience conversation with your sellers first. You need to convince them in a moment on Facebook as a pattern interrupt that you are the better product, come take a look at me, or TikTok or Google Ads or whatever. And you're kind of interrupting their day. You're interrupting them to have a conversation. I feel sometimes in the negative of this world, it's like you're walking up to a group of people who are chatting and having a great time, and you step into the conversation and just be like, buy my crap. Because I think that's how people treat it, right? They just walk into a room and just scream at the audience. It's like, hey, buy my crap. And it's like, no, that's not exactly how you establish brand. But anyways, on that, you've got to get the traffic. You got to learn additional skill sets that not a lot of people have, and they don't understand the cost associated with that. The real capital it takes to define that audience. You can spend tens of thousands of dollars on paid traffic before you get any real conversions, real sales that can quantify the metrics. It can be a challenge if you don't understand that correctly or don't know how to mess with it. And of course, Facebook and other platforms have gotten more difficult in their compliance, and it's a little easier to get yourself shut down over there, which kind of creates some problems. And then you got a bit of a cat and mouse game going on there too. Between credit cards and businesses and VPNs to get those accounts back online or get them running. But there are other sources of traffic, as you guys know, like TikTok. Of course, there's organic and SEO. That takes time. It takes time to build that brand and build that audience, and it can become a great opportunity when done correctly. But it does take quite a bit more lift to do that, and a lot of testing, in my experience. You have to test a lot of products very quickly to find your winners. So there are pros and cons to both. Some people have that skill set and can go over there and launch those products on Shopify and find those winners and do really great. If they're not taking advantage of the Amazon channel, in my experience, if you're spending between $50,000 to $100,000 a month in traffic, you're going to lose up to 18% of any traffic you acquired in the direct-to-consumer market that will end up buying on Amazon. So you paid for them, but they're buying somebody else's product. So when I see the two differences, I no longer see them as exclusively, just kind of wrap this all together, as one or the other. I see them as a part of a multi-channel strategy that most people need to look at if they're going to be really a serious business player. They need the multi-part strategy. When to do it is more important than if you do it, as I mentioned earlier. But I think it's important people understand they should open both channels at different times later on to kind of bring that whole thing together.
Hope you've been enjoying the podcast so far. Here's a word from our sponsor, ourselves. We'll audit your email and SMS marketing to see if and how it can be improved for free. Simply go to agencyjr.com/call. That's agencyj as in Jacob, R as in Reynes.com/call, and let's talk and see how we can make you more money. Here, maybe like a question before we dive into like more actionable tips and advice.
Sure.
For like a Shopify store, or like a product, is there like a perfect scenario of when like a Shopify store should also go into Amazon? Maybe like a niche or maybe like a specific case where it would be the perfect case for them to try out Amazon as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're acquiring more than like $500 or to $1,000 a day in profit on Shopify from your store, but you don't have an Amazon channel, then you are easily losing, 10, 15, 20% of your traffic to Amazon. So at that point, if you have now set up the systems, traffic, organic, paid, or whatever, and you're making $300, $400, $500 a day in profit on your Shopify store, that's a great time to go ahead and make the effort to get your Amazon store open, because now you are sending customers to Amazon. We call it found money at that point, because they are literally going to validate on Amazon if you're a legitimate business, if you legitimately have products. And if they don't see you at the top of their search, if they don't find your products to validate what they just saw on Facebook, TikTok, Google, whatever, then they're going to buy somebody else's because they were already interested in buying it. And because Amazon presents it to them right there, they're just going to be like, boop, that's the one. I trust Amazon. I know the return rate. I know the company. I know how I deal with the problems. I can leave them a negative review if I don't like it, or I can be positive, et cetera, and they just click really fast, making it very easy. So if you're on that side of the house, and you've got some established brand, product, stuff moving, that's probably a pretty good window of time in which you would want to start opening that channel to start taking on those additional sales that you're missing, that are literally getting bought in Amazon.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like right now Amazon has a similar effect when you see products in retail. You might see an ad for something that's online. You're kind of like on the edge whether this is legit. You go in, let's say, a Walmart, and you see, for example, Ghoulies gummies in Walmart. And you're like, wow, they're legit. Like, they're here, and all of a sudden, it adds a lot of credibility.
It's a trust.
Yeah.
We call it similarity and familiarity equal trust, because there are similar products in a familiar operating space now within Amazon, and it owns 47% of the market share. Because of that, we can build brands no one's ever heard of in 10 minutes and launch those products into competition on Amazon, and using the trust factor of Amazon, start getting sales on it with 0 reviews. Right, because we can sell to the algo, we can sell to the business, and it legitimizes your company. Once upon a time, if you weren't in the yellow books, you weren't a legitimate business. Okay, and when the yellow books went to a website, it was like, well, you at least need a brochure website, because people are going to look you up and they're going to say, oh, well, they got a website, they're legitimate. Well, if you're in e-commerce today, we see Amazon's business now as just a way to not only incubate the business to determine its value, its profit, its potential and upside, but a legitimizing of the company, that you are actually a legitimate company because you have a brand on Amazon.
Yeah.
Even if it's not making up a majority of your sales.
I have an interesting question for you. You definitely know the story of the brand that was selling tripods on Amazon, then Amazon banned the tripod brand, and then basically released their own Amazon Basics. This is kind of like the thing I feel like you touched upon.
Yep.
It's a tool. It's not gonna be something magical. It's a tool. So for you, maybe can you elaborate on that point? Why did that happen?
Yep.
Do you see this happening often, or did they make us like a very specific mistake?
They made a very specific mistake that turned into an urban internet legend, in which I personally saw the marketing community use it as a reason to get you to buy their drop shipping courses and go over and do the drop shipping stuff. Look, Amazon steals your products and brands, and that doesn't happen over here on Shopify. They literally created a marketing narrative out of it. And in reality, the person later on, as you listen through that and you follow along with that story, don't just read the headline, but actually go back and digest and do some quick digging, you'll find out. He didn't have a legitimate brand. Anyone could have come in and knocked him off the platform, and he actually got bounced because he wasn't in compliance. Now Amazon went and created the product, and that was their mistake. When they did that, they made too much visibility into their own brands. Now, Marketplace has already determined Amazon brand sucks, to the point that last week they're removing all their brands from the platform. Okay, they just announced that they're not going to be selling any more of their products. They are under scrutiny for anti-trust laws, and because of the kickback and feedback of all the negative narrative. They see, and just literally the underperforming products, because they are crappy, they get reviewed very badly, and they are some of the worst performing products, and you can beat them any day of the week in their own platform, because most of them have no freaking idea how to sell on it, and now they're going to be removing themselves. So we got both a bit of a mistake on the seller part, used to create a narrative that was against Amazon, and there's negative things about Amazon. They have a corporate policies and things I don't necessarily agree with myself. But that created a situation that allowed marketers to go out and kind of push on that point and take a little minority thing and make it a majority problem. In actuality, when you're in compliance and you follow along with the terms of service, they want to work with you. And shutting down the business of your account, your seller account, versus taking an ASIN offline, or problems with compliance with ASINs, are typically an AI thing. They're typically something that nefarious sellers can jack with. But if you are defensible, if you are in compliance, you can usually get those fixed relatively fast, and it's just part of being in business with the platform. It's just part of being in it, like dealing with Facebook ad accounts or whatever. It's all part of just being involved in the business. If you are a great business and you're creating great brands, they'll give you representatives, they'll help you with localized shipping, they'll open up other channels. They want to establish a very good brand presence. And in the last 3-4 years, I've literally been talking about this for 7 years, but in the last 3-4 years, they finally come into more compliance. When Bezos was removed and a new CEO put in, a new seller performance VP was put in, brand compliance is a huge component of what they're doing right now. So you're seeing a lot more negativity in the marketplace towards Amazon, because it's coming from the drop shippers, the retail arbitrageurs, the wholesalers, and all the people who've been out of compliance. The AI is catching them faster now, and it's shutting them down faster. And because they have jacked with the system, Amazon is also holding the money. I had a guy come about 3 weeks ago, and he said, Amazon's holding on to $33,000 of their money. Those jerks, I can't believe they were doing that. And my answer to him was very lovingly, but bro, we talked about this months ago. You're running a dropshipping store. What I told you, they were going to, I hate to say I told you so. They were going to catch you eventually. And of course they're going to hold up the money because you jacked with their system. But it's my money and I need him to give it back to me. I'm like, I get that. I understand that. At the same time, you were playing the game, right? And you got caught. If you built a real brand, that wouldn't have happened.
For sure. Maybe then a different kind of question from my side. So this is basically how I
Sure.
currently understand the comparison of Shopify and Amazon. Like with Shopify, I see you have more control, more freedom. Through that, I see it maybe is a bit more scalable, but also requires more work, and it's also more volatile. Amazon, on the other side, how I see it is obviously have less control, so maybe less management, but it's less volatile and a bit more stable, and maybe not as scalable, or if not, maybe if as scalable, maybe not as quickly scalable. Would you agree with that assessment, or yeah?
Great question. There's two, I guess it's a tortoise and the hare conversation. Because we all know the tortoise and the hare, right? The hare ran out really fast and got way ahead. The tortoise kept a momentum and a pace, and eventually the tortoise won when the hare, didn't make it. I kind of see this as a tortoise and a hare conversation, because you may have a slower ramp up time on Amazon, and in private label it takes a little bit more of the initial complexity of the setting everything up correctly to ensure you go to market with brand defensibility and brand momentum and opportunity from that. But once you get started, I don't know what you consider scalable, but we've taken businesses to $40 million in 1 year on Amazon. So as far as I'm concerned, that's scalable. I've taken many more people as a whole to 7 figures in 12 months. I consider that to be scalable. And the thing about that is, once they are able to get traction with the algorithm, once they're able to let the algorithm determine that their metrics, their product, their sellability, their sales velocity, and a bunch of other metrics inside of Amazon are validated against the competition, Amazon will reward them with more distribution. See, it's an algo. It just makes decisions about where to send the sales. It isn't that there are random people deciding to make sales. There's 4,000 sales a minute happening on Amazon. What the algo is doing as a gatekeeper is just shifting through the demand of those sales and picking which vendor is able to deliver the product at the best price point for that customer just in time. So it's just choosing. So as you go through and learn that algo, the goal is for it to decide to choose you more often than your competition, because you have better metrics, better inventory, better profitability, better upside potential for Amazon. as well as your brand. And then it will lift you into new tiers of traffic. And from there, that can go very quickly. So we've seen repeated case studies, verifiable case studies in my team, in my business, as well as my clients, most importantly, where they'll hit 100,000 after their launch within 30 to 45 days. And from there, new tiers of traffic open up. I have a case study from Daniel, who this May 2022, was doing about 150,000 a month. He had climbed up and he was getting there, and he had plateaued between 100 and 150 for a few months. But the algo is basically just determining, based on his inventory, his sales, his availability of product, his price point and competition, that in June, it doubled his sales. So he went from 150 to 300,000 a month, right? And he still works 10 to 15 hours a week. He didn't start working 100 hours a week. He didn't do something miraculous. He didn't make some giant changes. The algo rewarded his brand with more market share. And that's the beauty I like with Amazon, is that it doesn't take more than 10 to 15 hours a week to run a multi-seven-figure business with no employees, no infrastructure, no overhead, and minimal paid traffic. And I even have case studies, and I just went on another podcast proving this, and they were like, well, you better bring some guests on because we don't believe what you're saying. And I brought on 2 guests to prove it, was that we can even turn off ads in Amazon when we reach certain levels of metric. Amazon wants us to stay there and wants us to stay on the top brand. It's making the most money. It's getting the most demand answered from the customer. And because of that, you can start backing down your ads, okay, which is increasing your profitability without losing rank, organic sales, or market share. And in some instances, and we proved this, we turned off 30,000 a month in paid traffic and went nowhere. In fact, we gained organic market share and we gained profitability. So we can even show how to dial back those campaigns down to very minimal campaigns, kind of like cruise control on your car at 70 miles an hour. You no longer need all that effort to get up to speed. You're just leaving it on cruise. Now you're maximizing your profit.
Yeah, I think
this one thing to do with the system.
Yeah, I think this is a good question. I feel like for me, I had the same kind of like idea as Jacob. Then I feel like a lot of our listeners who are primarily on Shopify, they kind of think the same. Because they've been on Shopify, I looked at Amazon's like, hey, you'll need to rank organic, and there's so many sellers on there. Everyone knows about it. Like, it's going to be very difficult to start. And I think this is a good intro to next question is, when someone will be taking a brand from Shopify specifically to Amazon, how do they go about it? Is it just focusing on organic, just some, like, I don't know, like kind of like SEO, optimizing your product description, pricing, or is it paid ads, same as you would on Shopify? How does getting started look like?
Same 90-day launch plan occurs for any seller, even established brands versus brand new sellers, because we're going to train and what we call prime the algorithm to determine that your product and best metrics are going to beat the current competitors in the marketplace. Even if they have 2 or 3 or 4,000 reviews, I don't care. When I sell to the algorithm, I'm selling to specific metrics. I want it to understand that I'm better than the lowest tier of the competition that I'm going after. So let's use an analogy. There's 10 competitors in my space on Amazon. I'm selling on Shopify right now, and I want to start up the Amazon channel. Okay, and I see there's 10 competitors over there that I'm going to have to go beat. Price may be an issue. Competitive may be an issue. You may have to address minimum advertised pricing or map pricing. You may have to address both, but you will need to pay traffic inside of Amazon, okay, to gain that brand authority and gain that traffic market share as you first go to market, right? Because we want any spillover traffic that we're currently paying for over here on our Shopify account. You just, first off, again, as I said earlier, you need to understand that you're sending traffic to Amazon and it's someone else is buying those products already. They are already buying them. And the larger your Shopify store is, the more traffic you're sending to Amazon with buyers. So our goal here is to get those products that we are currently selling up in front of Amazon's platform, up in front of our target keywords as quickly as possible to gain that market share and that spillover that is literally looking for us to validate whether or not we're real. And that is going to give us a lift. All right, any paid traffic on Shopify over here is going to lift up our Amazon brands over here. It's a reciprocal thing. Now, as organic takes time in Amazon to validate the algorithm, as I mentioned earlier, the paid traffic will keep you there until organic starts to overtake you. When you get to 40, 50, 60% of your sales coming from organic and not PPC, that's when you can start to dial your PPC back, because now organic is overtaking PPC in terms of profitability, gain more profitability back. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so at that point, you're now picking up the spillover traffic from paid ads that was originally going to somebody else. You're now gaining that market share back.
I think a lot of
You're getting that profitability back, and you're making them customers.
I think a lot of people are going to love that, because right now with a CAC on Facebook and all the other platforms going up, people are struggling with profitability. A lot of people are not acquiring customers profitably anymore. So this could be another channel of opportunity alongside, for example, email marketing to get that money back.
Well, let's cover that for a second if I can, if you'd allow me. And one of the things obviously you guys know, and I'm sure people listening to this on the Shopify know and should understand, that first customer acquisition is not where the money should be made. It can be made if you're doing a great job, but it's really second, third, and fourth acquisition that makes the business, either through email, SMS, follow-up marketing, packaging, or materials. Getting and acquiring that customer is the number one goal. The more customers you can acquire from your competitors, the more money you're going to make. Which means your job, really, at the end of the day, is once you start acquiring customers, okay, is to then figure out how to make sure everything they purchase next from you, your customer lifetime value of that customer, is profitable. So I think I see a lot of Shopify people, and I don't know if it's training or world or whatever, I see a lot of similar things happening in mindset on the Amazon side with people who are brand new. But they think about one product only, and they don't really think about 3, 4, 5 additional products in their ecosystem that their customers can buy from them continuously to get to an actual value of that customer that's profitable. Okay, if I can acquire a customer and take them away from you, I've already won. You understand? So I think people focus too much on that initial acquisition and not on the second or third or fourth. On the Amazon side of the house, we make sure people understand there are 150 million Prime members. Of that, there are 100 million, Amazon tells us, that are buying over $1,000 a year from sellers on Amazon. And our metric for the back end of our Amazon stores is to get the customers that are spending $1,000 every year into our brands. Right? That's our CLTV for 12 months, is $1,000. So when we put our products in Amazon, when we launch, when we're taking over market share, when we are literally even running average cost of sale at 125%, okay, which obviously, if you know the math, is not profitable. My total advertising cost of sale, which is referred to as tacos on Amazon, could be 3 to 5%. Because I am now acquiring market share away from you, my competitor, and then the customer is buying additional products on Amazon from me as part of my customer lifetime value. When you understand what I just told you, you can now compete with me. If none of anything I just made sense, it didn't say or make sense to you, then you are not going to win in the marketplace. You're going to lose. So you've got to really understand how to approach that market with guys like me that are in there, or we're going to eat your lunch. So people need to understand that this is serious. Like, this is a business. You will not compete with me if you don't understand these things. And both Shopify and Amazon people need to understand that. You've got to play this like a real business. It's a numbers game. I'm willing to spend more money to acquire a customer away from you, even if it's not profitable, because I will make it profitable. Unless you're willing to do that, you're going to lose.
That's a good mindset. I feel like an interesting take on it as well. One last question for me, like when we talked about starting on Amazon, you mentioned like your goal is to basically prime the algorithm so to show it that you can beat the competition. What other metrics are you looking at? Is it delivery speed, reviews, sales? What are those metrics like in just bullets?
So initially, I don't care about reviews because that is closing the loop on the entire customer life cycle. Amazon cares about that, right? They care about the customer experience, the fulfillment, the last mile delivery, and the customer experience. They've got that. So what I'm concerned about is acquiring those customers, proving the metrics correctly to the Amazon algorithm over 90 days, and buying up that market share so the algo goes and looks at me and says, whoa, who's this new player on the block? They got more profit, they got higher velocity, they're acquiring more customers than the lower tier of these. Let's give them some traffic and find out how they do. Let's prove it. So Amazon will then start to prove that we're better than that lower tier of current competition in the marketplace. Remember, there's 10, in this example, there's 10 competitors. The bottom 3 to 4 performing are going to then be compared. Amazon's own admission, you can go look this up. They've got a series of videos from their engineering department where they talk about 100 different algorithms for each node that are running around determining whether new products, life cycle, metrics, velocity, sales, and profitability, and other metrics will beat current competition even if they have 5,000 reviews and the new product has 0. They don't want to bury the new products. Why do they not want to bury the new products, right? Because they want to follow the trends. They want to follow the social trends. They want to follow what's happening with those products, and they want to give them a fair chance to be seen in the marketplace. They don't want to bury them if there's an opportunity to make millions of dollars from those, trending products, right? So they have these algos running around to just qualify that. Well, if my metrics are being primed, okay, and I have a minimum of $12 in profit per unit, okay, I have certain controls and mechanisms over 90 days I want to see the algorithm respond positively to as I'm doing certain things, including buying share from PPC, sponsored ads, and other components of marketing within Amazon's system, by the way, because when we launch, we don't do any outside Amazon effect. We don't do any outside marketing or anything. This is all Amazon only, because all we're doing is just priming the algo. We want it to believe. And then in 90 days, I wanted to beat the first 3 to 4 competitors. I want to beat out their metrics within 90 days. That will establish my brand in the marketplace, and by reciprocation, the loop will be closed, because at this point, reviews will start coming in, and I will start seeing that life cycle being closed. The algorithm will see that being closed positively by seller feedback, by review feedback, etc. And then I will be basically going to attack the next 3 to 4 competitors in the next 90 days. And so over 90 by 90 by 90, I'm basically proving to the algo that I have long-term stability, inventory, the right metrics. I'm making Amazon the most money, more than my competitors, and so they want to sell more of my products, right?
Amazing value. It's really interesting how you really deeply understand the platform to kind of take advantage of it. Basically, know the playing field to know how you can play well. That's great. But
all about growth.
As we're closing into the end of the episode, what are maybe some other 2 very actionable tips you would suggest to e-commerce owners trying to open up their first Amazon channel?
Yeah, so the second thing about it, obviously understanding profitability is important. The second thing is, where do I get my growth and market share from? How do I adapt and change, gain distribution? And that is going to be from additional products. The average FBA seller on Amazon has less than 5 FBA products branded within their system. I will tell you, there's a pro tip. You got to have more than 5, and the system will reward you with more distribution. And the more products you sell on Amazon, the more money you're going to make. So to gain market share, I also want you to understand you can't be competing on products that are $30 or less in retail price point. I call that Amazon's mosh pit. If you know what a mosh pit is, it's where the 6'4" bikers and sweaty guys go in and beat the crap out of each other, and children and women should not go in there. It's just a nasty, nasty place. I like to sit up in the sports box and look down and watch out wherever that's going. So in the $30 or less retail price point, that's the mosh pit, right? That's low price, low profitability. It's sweaty and nasty. Don't go in there. So we usually sell between $50 to $100 in retail price points. So that is also going to give us more market penetration. There's going to be more sales in terms of the distance of the customer willing to purchase more of my products in that CLTV, okay? And then I'm going to look at the third thing, which is scalability of that marketplace and upside potential, which leads me to a 24-month exit. So our goal with this is to build these brands up and exit them, all right? Economics 101. You know about inflation. We hear about it all the time right now. There's lies about what the actual inflation is. We know it's more than that, which means money today is worth more than money tomorrow. So when we build these companies to exit, we will take them out and get 2 to 3 years worth of profit back. Now, we don't just stop. We go and do it again. We're bigger. We're capitalized. We have all the knowledge. We go back. There are more products than you can do in a lifetime. We've already established what they are. We've indexed 6% of Amazon based on our criteria and metrics, and we simply go back to the well and launch those products in another brand. And then we just repeat that process like a franchise model, like a wholesale retail. We just go one brand after another. We can exit those brands or exit them all at once at a corporation. So again, upside and potential, market share, and then of course scalability and exit are the third things to be thinking about. Getting highly profitable brands to at least 15% net income, EBITDA, in a 12-month cycle, at least 7 figures. And then by 24 months, once they matured, exiting them. Okay, Amazon's exits will be 3 to 4x, depending upon profitability, single channel. If you open a DTC channel, direct to consumer, Shopify, even if it's only taking up 5, 10, 20% of the market share, we can add, it could be multiples of 5 to 10x with the multiple channels in 24 months. And those are really where the money's made. You can cash flow these positively. You can have them as cash flow positive assets, but the real fun and the real money is made in the exit.
Amazing value. Amazing value. Maybe Reynes, any last questions from your side? No. Then maybe the last question, because we can again take the step back from Amazon, like a more of like a personal question, like what would be the one tip you would give to your younger self? Let's say your 20-year-old self. One piece of advice.
Stay the course. Life is going to get really good. You're going to have 4 daughters. You're going to have a beautiful property and a wonderful, beautiful wife and family. Don't do anything different.
Amazing.
Fail at everything you're about to fail at. Look past the failures in your life and just keep moving because they're going to happen. And don't change a single thing about what you're doing right now.
Amazing. Perfect. It's been a great episode. So, Neil, where can people find you? Yeah, plug yourself.
Yeah, so it's really simple, right? A short name. Just Google me. I encourage you to do that because what you're not going to find is a bunch of negative reviews and a bunch of crap about me on the internet. No, I'm not like super. I don't have a cray machine and I'm not alien smart, so I don't have a system scrubbing all the crap off the internet. The truth is, it's not out there because of the way I do business. And you're welcome to go check me out, check my Facebook, go to voltagedm.com, listen to some podcasts, listen to some media. If you're serious about building a business, you want profit first, and you're a business builder. And you want to get going on one of the channels, starting with Amazon FBA, that's where we go, then this might be the path for you. You can hit me up, you can text me personally, and we'll have a quick convo and determine whether or not it's a good fit. It's pretty simple.
Amazing. Thank you for the episode. See you. Bye-bye.
If you thought this episode was valuable, share it with a friend that might find this information useful and leave a 5-star review so we can reach more influential people and bring lessons back to you. Now, I'll see you in the next episode.